This is the CA Markets Coffee Break. I'm Tony Nash. Today we're talking about a couple of emerging markets ETFs. We're looking at India and we're looking at Brazil. These short videos use data taken from CI Markets, which is a subscription platform from Complete Intelligence. You can try CI Markets for free by going to completeintel.com/markets. Check it out, see if you like it. If you like it, subscribe, and you can see global equities, currencies, commodities, ETFs, and so on. Okay, we're first going to look at the India ETF called PIN. This is an Invesco India ETF. The PIN going into the year really was fairly muted, and we saw a lot of movement up until Q3 of this year as kind of loose, say, Fed policy and risk on. And to be honest, Indian equity performance really kept rising. Starting in Q3, we started to see a bit of a risk-off environment, and especially going into the end of Q4, as we saw the US dollar rise in November, December, we saw some of that risk on start to dial down, and we saw Indian equities, and especially this PIN ETF, start to dial down a little bit. Now, we're not expecting this ETF, this PIN ETF, to fall to the level that it was at the beginning of 2024. So it's relatively elevated, and that's largely on the back of expected growth of Indian GDP north of 6%. We look at Indian companies, they're doing pretty well, especially in specific sectors like tech and so on. But we do have to worry about things like crude prices and the imports of some of those commodities, which could be detrimental to India's economy. If we see crude prices, skyrocket, we could see that impact the input prices for Indian companies and really impact the Indian rupee. But in general, the RBI, the Reserve Bank, seems to be managing the economy really well. Indian companies seem to be moving along really well. And so while we do see prices pulling back in Q1 for PIN, we don't necessarily see PIN falling, at least in Q1, falling to the levels that it was at the beginning of 2024. So be careful of, or keep an eye out for some range-bound trading there, at least for now. Keep an eye on corporate earnings for the large Indian companies. Keep an eye on the RBI and Fed comments. Next, we have the MSCI Brazil EWZ ETF. We saw a sharp decline in this in late 2024, mainly due to risk-off sentiment. This was when the dollar really surged upward, and people started to kind of worry about the Brazilian real and kind of where that currency will go. Those worries are still front of mind for a lot of people. There are also the worries about China's economy. Can they take the chicken and the soy and a lot of the other, say, metals that Brazil exports? Can they continue to take that with the middling and disappointing growth that we're seeing in China? Because it's the largest export market. So we really need to keep an eye on the Brazil Central Bank. They're expected to continue cutting interest rates, which is expected to support equities. But we will continue to have an elevated dollar, which will make that kind of less of a opportunistic investment for foreign investors. So we do expect a recovery of this EWZ ETF. Actually recovered this month already, but that recovery will trail off a little bit over the next couple of months. There are some fiscal returns and some policy risks. Of course, Lula leading Brazil is a policy risk that every investor should worry about. Government spending with Lula in charge will continue to grow. Intervention in key industries is always a risk when Lula is in charge. So if you're investing in EWZ, just stay nimble, keep an eye on it. We have to keep an eye on the US dollar and BRL. How much will the BRL weaken? How much will BRL change compared to CNY? All of those trade effects impact the performance of EWZ. And of course, we have to look at debt loads. We have to look at things like Brazil's central bank intervened with a dollar repo earlier this week to put $2 billion into the economy so Brazilian companies could pay their bills in US dollars. If they have to continue to do that, then we'll see some deterioration of the environment in Brazil. So that's it. We're going to keep it quick. Thanks for your time. Please check out Complete Intelligence, please check out CI Markets at completeintel.com/markets. Thank you.